We need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave as well, is you want the product on the floor.
Parties agreed to the moratorium, pausing all free agency and player transactions while CBA discussions continue.
I am very confident that we will get a deal done.
Do you remember when I looked into the camera and told you that the WNBA was sitting on a powder keg that was about to blow everything sky high? Do you remember when I warned you that the players were threatening to strike, demanding 30% of every single dollar the league makes, and bragging about how they had options and didn't need the WNBA anymore? Well, grab your popcorn and sit down, because what I am about to tell you is the biggest plot twist in the history of women's sports. While the WNBA players were busy playing a high-stakes game of poker, threatening to walk away from the table, their entire backup plan just collapsed in spectacular fashion. Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league that was supposed to be their golden ticket, the league that was supposed to give them all the leverage in the world, just lost 65% of its audience in a single year. You heard that correctly, 65%. And now, the same players who were puffing their chests out and threatening to strike are reportedly scrambling, considering playing under their old contracts, because the WNBA owners just called their bluff, and the players have absolutely nowhere left to run. This story has more layers than an onion, and every single layer is more chaotic than the last. We are talking about conflicts of interest that would make a lawyer blush. Did you know that the two people who created the failing Unrivaled League, Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, are also the vice presidents of the Players Union negotiating with the WNBA? You cannot make this stuff up. The same people telling the league, "Pay us or we leave," are watching their own lifeboats sink before they even get on board. But wait, because later in this video, I am going to expose a shadow league that has been quietly signing WNBA stars behind everyone's backs, including the president of the Players Union herself, and why that might be the real threat that nobody is discussing. We have a lot to cover, so make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the mainstream media is afraid to tell you the truth about this financial disaster. Let's dive deep into the numbers, because numbers do not lie. What just happened to Unrivaled is not just a dip, it is a catastrophe. Last year, when Unrivaled launched, their opening night pulled in 312,000 viewers across TNT and True TV. That wasn't Super Bowl numbers, but for a brand new concept in the off-season, it was solid. It showed promise. People were curious, but this year, the reality check hit hard. Opening day viewership plummeted to an average of 107,000 viewers across 4 games. That is a complete nosedive. But it gets even worse. The games that aired exclusively on True TV, they averaged 32,000 viewers. Let me say that again so it sinks in. 32,000. There are people filming reaction videos in their basements getting more views than a professional basketball league featuring Olympic athletes. To put this in perspective, last season, Unrivaled averaged 221,000 viewers for the whole season. Their championship game peaked at nearly 400,000. They had momentum, but now that momentum is dead. Games on January 9th averaged 139,000. Games on January 10th and 11th dropped to 71,000. The audience has completely evaporated, and the excuses coming out of the Unrivaled camp are hilarious. The CEO, Alex Bazell, came out and said, "Leagues aren't built overnight. We are playing the long game." Listen, I love the optimism, but saying Rome wasn't built in a day doesn't apply when you lose 2/3 of your citizens in year 2. That is not building a league. That is witnessing a collapse in real time. Now they are trying to spin the narrative. They are talking about revenue being up 48%, projecting $40 million. They are bragging about merchandise sales being up 50%. And hey, that is great. Sell those hoodies, sell those hats. But here is the brutal truth about the sports business. Merch does not keep the lights on. TV deals keep the lights on. The TV deal is what pays the salaries. The TV deal is what gives you leverage. And right now, their TV deal with TNT, which is reportedly worth 9 figures, has an opt-out clause after 3 years. If these ratings do not turn around immediately, TNT is going to look at those 32,000 viewers and pull the plug. And if your TV partner walks away, it doesn't matter how many t-shirts you sold in Philadelphia, your league is finished. Some defenders are screaming, but Mike, they were competing with the NFL playoffs, they were up against college football. Yes, that is true. And yes, that is tough competition. But here is the thing. You knew the schedule, you chose to launch your season in that window, you picked a fight with the NFL and you got crushed. But even if we account for the football games, losing 65% of your audience is not a scheduling conflict. It is a rejection of the product. And why did they reject the product? This is the hard pill that the WNBA players need to swallow. The audience tanked because the stars were not there. Caitlin Clark, not playing. Aja Wilson, not playing. Angel Reese, sitting out with injury concerns. Sabrina Ionesco, not there. The four biggest needles movers in women's basketball, the four names that actually transcend the sport, all skipped Unrivaled's second season, and the result was a ratings graveyard. This proves once and for all that the casual audience is not there for women's basketball. As a concept, they are there for specific superstars. When Caitlin Clark plays, millions watch. When she doesn't, they change the channel. Unrivaled just proved this in the most brutal, expensive way possible. Even Brianna Stewart admitted it. She said, "You need the stars, and the stars aren't there." So why does this matter for the WNBA collective bargaining agreement? Why are we spending so much time talking about a 3-on-3 league? Because Unrivaled was supposed to be the players' ace in the hole. It was created specifically to give WNBA players leverage. The entire strategy was, if the WNBA owners don't give us the millions we want, we will just go play in our own league. We have options. We don't need you. Nafisa Collier literally told ESPN that leagues like Unrivaled exist to make the WNBA do the right thing. She said the quiet part out loud. This was a leverage play. But here is a lesson in negotiation 101. Leverage only works if your backup plan is actually scary. If you tell your boss, "Give me a raise or I quit," you better have another job lined up. Right now, the WNBA players are threatening to quit, and their other job is paying them an exposure and drawing 30,000 viewers on cable TV. That is not leverage. That is a liability. The WNBA owners are looking at those Nielsen ratings and laughing in their boardroom. Why would they cave to the players' demands for 30% of gross revenue when the players' only alternative is a sinking ship? This situation is actually tragic because the players overplayed their hands so badly. 6 days ago, the CBA deadline passed. The players refused to extend the current deal. They let it expire because they thought they had the power. They thought they could hold the league hostage. One player even used this ridiculous analogy, saying, "You want Applebee's and I want Chipotle, and we can't figure out our order." No, sweetheart, that is not the situation. The situation is, you are hungry, the WNBA is offering you a 5-course steak dinner, and your only other option is a hot dog stand that just failed its health inspection. When your backup plan fails, you don't get to demand Chipotle. You eat what is on the table. And let's be clear about what is on the table, because the narrative that the WNBA is lowballing the players is completely false. The WNBA's current offer is historic. It would take the maximum salary from roughly $249,000 to $1.3 million. That is a 500% raise. The average salary would jump from $120,000 to over $530,000. The minimum salary for the last player on the bench would go from $67,000 to $250,000. And remember, the WNBA season is only 4 months long. Making $250,000 for 4 months of playing basketball is incredible money. That is not a slap in the face. That is the biggest raise in the history of women's sports. Yet the players said no. Why? Because they are fixated on this idea of 30% of gross revenue. They want a cut of every dollar before the bills are paid. The league is offering a revenue share based on net revenue, meaning after expenses. The league says the players' proposal would cost them $700 million and bankrupt the league. And here is the reality check. The WNBA lost $50 million, even with the Caitlin Clark hype, even with the sellout crowds. The league is still operating at a loss. It has been losing money for 30 years. The NBA subsidizes it. The new TV deal helps, sure, but it doesn't make them instantly profitable overnight. So when the players demand a cut of gross revenue, they are asking for money that simply does not exist yet. So where does this leave us right now? Chaos. Absolute chaos. The deadline passed on January. The WNBA is now in a status quo period, but there is a moratorium on all league business. Free agency is frozen. 80% of the league are free agents, and none of them can sign a contract. because nobody knows what the salary cap is. The expansion drafts for Toronto and Portland delayed. The entire machinery of the league has ground to a halt. And remember that strike vote? Back in October, 98% of players voted to authorize a strike. That weapon is still loaded. The 7 players on the executive committee can pull the trigger and call a strike at any moment. But ask yourself this: if you are a WNBA player, do you really want to strike right now? Your backup league, Unrivaled, is collapsing. The WNBA is offering you 5 times your current salary. If you strike now, you might just prove to the world that the league doesn't actually need you. You might kill the momentum that Caitlin Clark built. It would be a disaster reminiscent of the 1994 Major League Baseball strike, which took baseball decades to recover from. The Players Union released a statement accusing the league of not meeting them with seriousness. They said the league was running out the clock. But looking at the Unrivaled numbers, maybe the league was smart. Maybe they were just waiting for the players' leverage to evaporate. And guess what? It just did. But wait, because the plot thickened. Just when you thought the players were out of options, a mysterious new player has entered the game. While Unrivaled is crashing and burning, there is another league making silent moves in the shadows. It is called Project B, and this is where things get geopolitical. Project B just announced their first official tournament location, Tokyo, Japan, in March of They are planning a Formula 1 style circuit, 7 tournaments across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And here is the kicker: they are offering players over $2 million a year plus equity in the league. And guess who has already signed up? Nneka Ogwumike, the president of the Players Union, alongside Alyssa Thomas, Jonquil Jones, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Mitchell, and Sophie Cunningham. 10 major WNBA stars have reportedly signed letters of intent with this mystery league. Now you might be asking, who is paying for this? Reports indicate that Project B is funded in part by Saudi Arabian money through a company called They have made it clear they are open to becoming direct competition for the WNBA. So while the players' first backup plan, Unrivaled, is failing, they are already pivoting to a Saudi-backed global tour. But here is the problem: Project B is still a ghost. It doesn't launch until it is unproven. And right now their schedule is designed for the off-season, but the WNBA wants to expand its season to 50 games. If those schedules overlap, players will have to choose the stability of the WNBA or the mystery money of Project. This puts the union president, Nneka Ogwumike, in a very strange position. She is leading the negotiations for the WNBA CBA while simultaneously signing up for a rival league funded by foreign money that might try to destroy the W. It is a conflict of interest on top of a conflict of interest. So what happens next? What is the end game here? Honestly, I think the players are going to have to fold. They have to take the deal. They don't have a It is not because they don't deserve more. I actually believe the growth of the game warrants higher pay, but business is not about what you deserve. It is about what you can negotiate. And you cannot negotiate when you have zero leverage. Unrivaled proved that women's basketball without the Caitlin Clark effect does not draw viewership on its own yet. Project B is a year away and totally unreliable. The WNBA is the only stable ship in the storm. The smart move for the players is to swallow their pride, take the deal that makes them millionaires, take the 500% raise, and keep building the league. Prove that you can sustain these ratings for another 5 years. Then in the next CBA, you demand the work. But the stubborn move, the dangerous move, that is continuing to hold out for 30% of gross revenue. That is threatening a strike. If they strike, they risk alienating the fans who just started paying attention. They risk the owners saying, "Fine, we will replace you with younger players who are happy to make $250,000. The WNBA called their bluff. The cards are on the table. The players tried to bluff with a pair of twos, and the owners are holding a royal Unrivaled posted 32,000 viewers. That was the sound of their leverage dying. This is a cautionary tale about overplaying your hand. It is a lesson in distinguishing between entitlement and economics. The WNBA players helped build this moment. Yes, they deserve credit. yet, but they do not own the casino. And right now the house is winning. I want to know what you guys think. Is the WNBA offer of $1.3 million fair? Should the players take it, or should they burn it all down and go join the Saudi League? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this debate is heating up. I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping the mic, and I will see you in the next upload.